Good morning. Happy Tuesday. It's Tuesday, right? Yeah, it's Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Hello. Hello, 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 hello. Hello, Shawnee, Rosa, Kia, Clara, Jen. Hello, friends. Hello. Oh, I forgot to change that. It's not MLK Day. Hmm. Okay. What's up, Jose? Hey, Maureen. Hello. Reach out to Congress about how we were given fake intel by France and Ukraine and was given to Russia, and we literally committed treason, demanded impeachment. Interesting. I wish I were surprised by that. I mean, we do have an administration that has decided it wants to take Greenland because he didn't get a Nobel Peace Prize. So, they set us up because Russia keeps getting the Ukraine intelligence, and now they know why. Mm-hmm. Again, doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Not in the slightest. This year has been the longest 84 years of my life. Yeah. Seriously. Seriously. Morning, Angel. Trump's anniversary next to your birthday is BS, just saying. You know, imagine having your birthday on his birthday. That'd be worse. But I hear you. I wouldn't want anything close to anything having to do with him. What kind of dumb? And I thought a Christmas Eve birthday was bad. Seriously. Yeah. Yeah. Your birthday is tomorrow. Yeah. I knew what you meant, Clara. Happy early birthday. And Angel, what is happening today? I don't know. The results of Trump threatening to put tariffs on the EU on anyone that doesn't support his takeover bid of Greenland. That's hitting the stock market. So that's fun. Be watching Jack Smith testimony on the 22nd. Sure. SCOTUS ruling comes out today. Ooh. Hey Ash, good morning. Which reminds me, we need to, or maybe I just need to throw another message out to the people. There's a bunch of people that expressed interest in getting interviewed, and I sent them the link to pick a date, and they haven't responded. I have to message all of them and be like, you still want to get interviewed? You filled out a form. Any info on the amount of foreign gold held in the Federal Reserve? Is that partly why Europe leaders aren't tougher on Trump? I don't think that would be a reason. I mean, he's got a date. I told you, he picked 2 dates. Luckily, he got rid of one of them. So, we're good. Good morning, Tanya. For now, we're good. We'll see. Yes. Interview Kyle today. Yep. Good morning, Julie. Yeah. Today was rough in terms of I could not make a video this morning. It was almost feeling overwhelmed. He emailed you a very long email about the mix-up, and I just did not have the bandwidth to deal with it. It's fair. It's fair. Gotta love people. Like I said, he emailed saying that he wanted to, and I sent him the link. So we'll see what happens. Oh, thanks, Alex. Appreciate it. Staying as warm as it can. Everyone, especially in the South on the East Coast, is starting to freak out about that possible snowstorm this weekend. When is someone going to take Trump's toys away? I still can't believe this entire thing going on with Greenland is to the point that it's at because he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize. That is the most childish thing I have ever heard in my entire life. Like that is a toddler response. What's up, Jeremiah? How are you doing, Alex? How's your day going? There's another reason, has to be. There might be another reason why people in his administration are pushing for it. Wouldn't surprise me one iota if that's the only reason Trump is pushing for it. Would not surprise me one iota if that's the only reason Trump is pushing for it. Again, we're talking about two different things in the end. By the way, hi, Eleanor. I forgot to say hi. Hi, Paige. If he actually does something to Greenland militarily, not only would that put us at war with NATO, but I think China, Russia will take advantage and try to. I mean, it would not surprise me if China and or Russia do something. Whether it's that, I don't know. I think if China does something, it'll be Taiwan, not the United States. And Russia's still trying to deal with Ukraine. I don't think it has the capability of dealing with two fronts at this point. I'm doing well. I was struggling a little this morning. Tried to make a video to post, and I was getting that overwhelming feeling, you know? Oh, he's 100% a scam. Hey, Grace. He's 100% a scam. He's a scam within a scam. He is the grifter in chief. I heard someone say his type of dementia makes him believe his lies and thinks his admin use that, let him pout. I mean, there are people without dementia that believe their lies, scarily enough, but I think with him, it's more, he has spent his entire career convincing himself that he is better than he is. Like he grew up with basically never admitting that he's wrong. And I think when you spend your entire life never admitting you're wrong, you start believing it. Russia can't defeat Ukraine. They pose no threat to Greenland. Hey, Scott. I agree. Sleeper agent? I mean, maybe unwittingly. I don't think he's smart enough to be an actual sleeper agent, but. Morning, Summer. Good morning, Kiva. I don't know, man. If Russia, China is a threat to Greenland, I wonder if there's some type of agreement between the US and EU to combat. Yeah, they've got a treaty in Greenland with Greenland and the United States that the United States can set up as many bases as they want there. But that was back from the Cold War. Post World War II, Cold War stuff. Good morning, Ambrosia. Oh, Russia's way closer to Alaska than Greenland. It's like it's like really close. It's actually quite far from Greenland. Canada is thinking of working with China to protect Greenland. I didn't see anything about that. Trump offered to trade Puerto Rico for Greenland because he said Puerto Rico was dirty and the people were poor. Oh, gosh. And had to spend 40 minutes explaining that to your MAGA father-in-law. I'm sorry, dude. Switch the live when you walked out of the room. Huh? Making a statement about Russia and how close it was or far it was. Oh, yeah. And they have every reason to discuss that. I have never been witness to a president destroy something that same country built over 80 years. In 1 year, this president has destroyed everything the United States has built over the last 80 years. Leave Greenland alone. They have health care. Amen, Paige. Amen. Everything else is they think he and MAGA think they've fixed everything. Oh, yeah. I mean, try. Sure, they may try. Here's the thing. They don't have any authority to do it. So there's a couple things that you need to remember about that. After January 6, 2021, the Congress basically wrote a law that made all of the stuff that happens there after the election ceremonial. They have no authority to do anything anymore. So they can say what they want, but they actually don't have any authority to do any of that. So we need to remember that. Morning, Missy. I just had to fight the wee beasties to eat your cereal. Just can't believe this joke of an idea is on the table, just like we ran for president. Truth. Yeah, but we're talking the difference between. Here's the thing. Everything that they have tried to do has been a reinterpretation of laws that exist. There is no way he could reinterpret that law. But, I mean, that doesn't mean he won't try. I'm not saying he won't try. I'm saying I think he'll have less of a leg to stand on that than almost anything else he's done. Because as long as the states certify everything, it doesn't matter. None of the rest matters. Trump told the New York Times last week that he needs Greenland because it is important psychologically for me. Of course. I even stood up and they were trying to climb up my pants. Dang. Your allergies are bothering you and your eyes are all puffy. Oof. Remember when Sarah Palin was the goof of the Republican Party? Unfortunately, yes. Who do you think will be their front runners? It's really too early to tell. There's so much that could happen in the next 2 years that could affect it. As it stands right now, sure, Vance is probably in the lead, but it will. There's so much unknown. I do find it interesting that Erica Kirk is pretty much fallen off the face of the planet now. I long for the day when I don't have to hear that clown's voice anymore. Yeah. 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 She's got to start planning their surprise out of nowhere wedding. Imagine the MAGA reaction, though. It's going to be insufferable. Everything MAGA does is insufferable at this point. Erica's done touring. I mean mourning. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah. Yep. Very much so. Very much so. President said that as a joke regarding not having right. Yeah. Anything that's bad, that's looked at as bad, they just go to joke. So speaking of Vance, I've noticed that where is Kamala or what has she done as VP crowd is silent, with Vance practically being non-existent except for press conferences like most VPs. Of course. Of course. Rules for thee and not for me. That's pretty much how it works, right? Why we know that everything that they said was a bunch of bullshit. The issue is, will Trump's unpopularity sink Vance? Just ask Harris how hard it is to run from an unpopular presidential term. Truth. President says a joke. Oh, finally someone spoke back and said, I'm a vet and risked my life so we could hold elections. Does that sound funny to you? Good. Good for them. Let's put it this way. With the amount of... Hold on. I got a sneeze coming. Ugh. With as much shit has happened over the last year, I can't imagine. There's part of me that thinks that he won't make it 4 years, regardless of the health side of things. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, Scott. That's not surprising at all. Not surprising at all. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be bad. You're probably right, Rosa. You're probably right. Oh. Europe does the bazooka option, we will go into a recession. At minimum. Yep. Heck yeah. I know there was at one point that gold had broken its record. Recession, that's your biggest worry? Wake up. Yeah. Yeah. Why worry about being able to, eat or, pay your bills? Why worry about that kind of stuff? Germany said they're looking at boycotting the World Cup. Good. I think everyone should. Is that what you're worried about? I'm worried about a lot of things. Recession, one of them. Hello. How are things in Denmark today? I'm sorry you have to deal with us. Just have a single piece of chicken, a piece of broccoli, a tortilla, and something else, Shawnee. Hello, how are things in Canada? I'm sorry you have to deal with us. Well, you're not a very smart person, obviously. I mean, we've been dealing with Denmark for years. Uh-huh. I don't even know what you're saying. I don't know, Trash Panda. Europe really needs to get serious. They already appeased one authoritarian to their detriment. You'd think they'd have learned. They tried to appease this one. Are you all right? I'm fine. People's heads have been so twisted, he doesn't even know what he's saying. True. Thank you, Renegade. Hey, Pixie. I mean, this whole thing, I said it yesterday, this whole thing with making a trade deal with the EU and then him going back and saying, I'm going to put tariffs if you don't do what I tell you to do. Who's going to do a trade deal with us? Who's your favorite president? FDR? So who's destroying Minnesota? The Trump administration destroying Minnesota. Leave the US if it's so bad. Did you? No. That's not how things work. Okay, Troy. Walls has nothing to do with it. Nothing? No, he's screwed up. That's why he's not running for governor again. Girly, you love Obama. I like Obama. I was asked who my favorite was. Nick Shirley's supposed to be in Greenland today. There are no riots, Mel. Grow up. Even though Norway isn't in charge of who gets the Peace Prize, Grace. He already has alienated the US from everyone. But yes, I agree. Had to move, the tubes keeps crashing on you. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Except for the over 70 million who voted for him. Except for the over 70 million who voted for him what? Yeah, did you actually pay attention to what I was talking about, or did you just come in and think that you knew what I was talking about? Because you obviously didn't. Next time, maybe you should pay attention to what's going on before you talk. You're very angry. You're very stupid. Goodbye. Nope. I'm perfectly fine. Hey, Joanne. Okay, Greg. Good luck on that. There's a lot of progressives running for office that don't want the status quo. Lots. Tons. Hello.
Well, good morning. Looks like our president couldn't sleep very well last night. We can always get to Greenland in a second, but some of the other ones I found particularly amusing.
Yeah.
As you know, he's set up his Board of Peace, where he has invited Vladimir Putin to join, the head of Belarus, which is another murderous dictatorship, to join, and Viktor Orban, because nothing spells credibility than having an organization with Putin, Orban, and Belarus in it. So he invited the French president to join, and then after that lovely invitation said, if you don't join, I'm going to impose a 200% tariff on French wine and champagne. That was his invitation. It gets better. Britain submitted their control of the Chagos Islands, which the only one we need to know about is Diego Garcia, where we have the military base, to the World Court to determine whether they should own it or not. This was at the behest of the Trump administration and the approval of the Trump administration. Marco Rubio lauded them for doing this. The court ruled that Britain should not have them, that they should revert to the Mauritania island chain, which is where they came from. But Mauritania says they will gladly give the United States and Great Britain a 99-year lease to hang on to Diego Garcia. Now, again, this was done. Britain put this for arbitration at the behest of the Trump administration. So once they did this, Trump issued a tweet saying last night that Britain did this for no reason at all, and it was a great stupidity, both quotes in all caps. This is right after his Secretary of State sent a congratulatory telegram to Great Britain. Folks, again, for the Trump supporters, at what point does this all become amazingly embarrassing? What possible justification for any of this lunacy?
The answer...
Oh, KK says Great Britain is our enemy. Oh, okay. And Putin's our friend. Got it.
Yep.
Got it. You have a great geostrategic mind. You're the second coming of Henry Kissinger.
I don't even believe these people are real. I can't wait for TikTok to have a thing that shows us where these people are coming from. I bet you it's not even a person in America.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. I think that's a very good point, and that has I don't know if the new owners will do that, because that has turned out to be inconvenient for Mr. Musk over on X. So it's been inconvenient for him, so I don't think that the new owners are going to want to do that.
Well, I'm pretty sure the only reason why he even did it was to try to hurt Trump, because in their little tiff that they had.
Who knows? You're trying to get into the mind of Donald Trump or Elon Musk, both of which I think are really a bit of an impossibility.
I think it's pretty easy to get into it because I think they're just like toddlers. bully age, kind of like toddler to maybe a elementary level bully.
Yeah, that part I'd agree with.
Rob Roy,
That part I'd agree with.
the files, we're not going to actually see the files until we hold Congress and this administration accountable for their choices. Congress knew that nothing was going to happen. They knew it. And until we hold them responsible for it, they're just going to keep ignoring it. Do we even still have a Congress? Yes, we have a Congress. They're just not doing their job. Still there, which means maybe never. No, there are lots of people that are running on it. There are lots of people that want it. We just have to hold them accountable for it. Again, it still comes down to the fact that if you don't put people in office that are willing to do it, and they know that they don't actually have to do what they promise they're going to do, they're going to keep doing exactly what they're doing right now.
And you know, one thing about the files, though, is they kept screaming that there was going to be a lot of Dem people in it. There were so many Dem people in it. And don't you think if there was so many Dem people in it that it would have already been released already in its entirety, barely redacted and all out there for everybody to see?
Yeah, I do. And you know what? It hasn't been reported on much, which is amazing to me. But the Department of Justice made a rather bizarre filing on late Friday night to make sure that the press wouldn't cover it on the Epstein cases, arguing that the two congressmen have, what's his name, Kahana or whatever his name is out there?
Roy Kahana.
Yeah, Roy Kahana. That they don't have any standing to bring a lawsuit against the DOJ. That was, that's a typical run-of-the-mill legal argument that didn't necessarily surprise me. I don't think they have a leg to stand on because I think the Epstein Act itself gives them standing. And the rule for standing is if you're going to be a third party, in other words, you're not a party to the cause of action, the only people who would be parties would be Maxwell or primary parties would be Maxwell or the victims. You have to show harm. And I believe you can show harm to the United States Congress because the Epstein Act is not being obeyed. But that wasn't the interesting part. The interesting part is the Trump administration, the Department of Justice said, regardless of how this court or any court rules on standing, the courts have no jurisdiction to compel, and this means any court, including the Supreme Court, to compel the DOJ to do anything at all. There is no cause of action attached to the Epstein Act. What they are implying is that an act of Congress has no remedy whatsoever at law if you disobey the law.
Unless there's something written in the law about what the ramifications, like what the...
Yes, but a law written by Congress doesn't have to have that.
I understand that. I'm saying that's what they're saying.
That's their argument. So the argument is in effect nullifying an act of Congress, saying that the act of Congress means nothing. Now, you don't have to be a lawyer to know that that's a stretch.
There's Di.
That's a
Di, you're welcome to come up if you want.
Here's what, forget the law on this because it's not important. What it shows me is exactly what Kia was getting at. This is what it shows me. I have not been really high on the whole Epstein thing. I didn't want the Democrats to go down a rabbit hole because I didn't know what we would find in that rabbit hole. I now think it's obvious that whatever is in those files is devastating and potentially fatal to Trump. They wouldn't be doing this if otherwise. They just wouldn't be, which goes right to the point that Kia was making. I mean, they just wouldn't be doing this.
Yep. Yeah. This has been the wildest 20 days of the first year I can remember.
This has been like the longest time warp ever. It just feels like you're just standing there and the whole world is just spinning, and it's like, what in the fuck is going on?
That's just it. It does feel like a sort of time warp, or we're caught, to use a Stranger Things analogy, we're caught in the upside down. We're caught in the upside down and we don't know how to get off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for the entire 20th century, since 1898, when we were a little bit predatory, after the Spanish-American War, we took the Philippines, Guam, and Puerto Rico. In the entire 20th century, we took on Tojo, we took on Adolf and his gang, we took on Stalin, we took on Kim Il-sung, and we took on Saddam Hussein to uphold territorial sovereignty. And by the way, we also aided Ukraine to uphold the concept of territorial sovereignty. It's one of the founding principles of the United Nations, and the United States of America, post-World War II, was the leading nation that pushed for the creation of the United Nations. And now here we are in Greenland. It is bizarre beyond all belief. What makes it even more bizarre is that we've had a number of treaties recognizing that Denmark has, control of Greenland, and to whatever they wish to do with Greenland, that we have no right to it, including the 1951 defense treaty that we have with Greenland and Denmark, that gives the United States the right to post troops there, to set up military bases there, anything we want. As the Danish Prime Minister said the other day, all they have to do is ask. We'll give them anything they want.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, we have a president who says we must own this land. And it's since come out that he actually, in his first term, offered Puerto Rico to Denmark in a swap because, and I quote, he said, Puerto Rico was dirty and the people are poor. That's the president of the United States.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, let's not forget that, polling has shown that the people of the United States, even his own base, don't really agree with this. So this is one of the things that we've talked about a lot on both sides of the aisle, about getting our representatives to do what we, the people, are asking them to do. And then once they get elected, they aren't doing it.
Well, hard to argue with that. They aren't doing it. I mean, this is bizarre. Yeah, what did Tom Tillis say the other day on the floor of the Senate? And he's a Republican from North Carolina. Senator Tillis said something that this is a special kind of stupid. Well, it is. This is beyond belief. And this is just one of many things that have gone on. I mean, this is just this week. Donald Trump, in his interview last week with the New York Times, said it is psychologically, he wants Greenland because it is psychologically important for me. He didn't say the United States. He said psychologically for me. Let's just say the quiet part out loud. The man is not well. He is not mentally well. Whether you want to call it dementia, I don't know. But the man is not mentally well. It is becoming more obvious day by day.
Yeah.
And this is why he put in the collection of bozos and losers into this cabinet, because he knows they'll never implement the 25th Amendment.
No.
If this was his first term, I think he'd be gone.
Why would this administration impose the 25th Amendment? They literally get to do whatever the hell they want. As long as they brown nose this man, they literally can do whatever they want. They can tell him whatever they want and he'll believe it. There's
another great advantage to him. At least with him, they won't go to jail.
Well, yeah, that too.
Yeah, they get rid of him. There's no guarantee that a new President Vance would grant them a pardon. Trump will have no problem doing it, especially if they kick him a few bucks. He'll be happy to pardon them.
Greenland's already said no to that possibility.
Yeah, Greenland has said they don't want to be bought and they don't want to fight with the United States. And originally, I was reading the timeline of it this morning in the Times. Greenland, Trump was talking about this within days of being elected. And Greenland decided to just keep it all on the down low, keep it low key, don't antagonize him, and he'll forget all about it because he often forgets about the goofy things that he says. They didn't know the history dating back to his first term of him being obsessed with Greenland. And that's all because of Robert Lauder, the cosmetics heir, who just put it in his head, it's so big, you have to get it. So now Greenland is obviously asking for their allies and friends and asking for NATO support, which they have every right to ask for. They're a part of NATO. The implications of this are obvious. Nobody's talking about the United States going to world war with Europe. That's not going to happen. If we attack Greenland, I guess we would get Greenland. But here's what else we would get. We would get the destruction of NATO. That's the most successful military alliance in world history that for 77 years has kept the peace. And it would mean that Europe would now and forever go their own way, both economically and militarily, politically.
Do you
think what it'd be like?
Can I ask you a question, Scott, about that?
Sure.
Like, do you really think like that's all that's going to happen? Like, we go in, we forcefully take Greenland, and the EU is just going to say F you to trade deals, and that's going to be it, and NATO goes away, and that's it? There's no other accountability. There's no anything else? You think that's it?
Well, in my opinion, you just named two unbelievably huge things in terms of accountability. They would isolate the United States in the world. We'd be isolated. The world is not going to side with the United States going into Greenland. Nobody
But I think
will.
for them, for the people who are doing it, that's exactly what they want. So that's not any kind of account. It's literally giving them everything they want. They take what they want. Everybody leaves them alone. And they literally get to become what they want.
Do you know what the bazooka option is?
I don't know specifically.
Yeah, that's what Europe can do. Right now they have retaliatory tariffs, on trade goods to the United States, goods. The real harm to the United States would be if they put tariffs onto our services and tech sectors. That would throw the United States into a recession almost overnight. And that would also happen if we go into Greenland. I mean, the cost to the United States would be astronomical. And maybe you might be right. Maybe this is something Trump wants. He wants to be isolated. I don't know.
And here's the other thing. Them wanting isolation and it actually being good for the country are two different things. So I hear what you're saying. And I mean, I agree, obviously, that, I won't say never, like Scott says, just because never is a word that just never, that involves us absolutely knowing the future, and we don't. But that being said, them wanting us to be isolated and having it turn out the way they think it will, are kind of two different things. We already know that they're kind of lost their mind when it comes to a lot of things. I mean, the whole Great Depression happened because they thought it'd be wise to put tariffs on everybody before the Great Depression, and they were wrong.
What did I say? Never on? I'm sorry, I forgot.
There will never be a war because we went in.
Do I think that Europe would go to war with the United States over Greenland? No, I don't.
Yeah,
no.
And that's fine. And you may be right. I'm just that was my only issue. Bye, Joseph. That is a ridiculous thing to say based on everything that is literally known about what's going on right now. Who holds the U.S. debt? The U.S. citizens, most of it. A majority of the U.S. debt is held by the United States citizens.
And like, you know, I just do people really want, like, if you truly believe that Greenland is for our safety, do you think that our safety would be better with people in Europe who used to be our allies dancing in the street calling for the end of America like we have in Iran? Because I've heard all of the things about how much, all these like countries that they can't stand, and it's like they're dancing in the street, they hate us, why do we even care, we just need to go in. Like, what do you think is going to happen if we continue on this path with our administration, our government leaders trying to attack our allies? People are going to go in the street dancing, wanting the downfall of America.
Clara, yes. If NATO dissolved, the U.S. would be kicked out of all of the installations, at least in NATO countries. I can't say for every other country that we're in, but NATO countries, yes.
And somebody in chat brought up a good point that I agree with. The European nations would form a new NATO-type organization. Of course, the United States would not be a part of that.
Yep, a majority of the U.S. debt is held by U.S. citizens. But yes, outside owns a lot, obviously, and that would affect if they sold it all. But a vast majority is owned by the United States people.
Kia, to put your question, how bad I think it would be, the dissolution of NATO and the ensuing economic estrangement of the United States from the world, which has brought us untold wealth since 1945, would be the greatest geostrategic mistake in American history. The greatest. There's nothing even close to it. It's impossible to exaggerate what a terrible mistake it would be.
Yep, that's what I'm telling you. The United States citizenry owns a vast majority of the federal debt.
Okay, let me try this again. I guess it's like I get that. I get that, and I guess in my head I'm just like, I just feel like basically we're telling a bully that we're going to take away his PlayStation, and that's kind of what it feels like, and everybody else is going to feel the repercussions of it. Like I don't know. It just seems, and I get it. I totally understand. There's so many countries, if they cashed in what we owe them, we would be screwed. And it's just frustrating because it does not feel like that's jack shit, like in a way. It's just really frustrating.
There are wars that are not kinetic. It is not in Europe's interest to go kinetic either. It's not in Europe's interest to do that either. Mm-hmm. Nobody wins in a kinetic war. There is war by other means, and the Europeans would most assuredly launch that. I think that the destruction of the American economy and the isolation of the United States and the removal of the United States as the world's leading democracy is, well, that's quite a punishment and would be quite an accomplishment by Mr. Trump. Hard to imagine any other president even beginning to pull off something that catastrophic.
Hubby wants to get a camper and go off grid. It's scary because he is the rational one. It's going to be very difficult to go off grid. I mean, that's just a reality. It's just not like it used to be. There is no real, yeah. I mean, I understand the feeling. 100% understand the feeling.
Let's take a step back for a second. We've seen the first year now. Today's the 1-year anniversary. And I think it's safe to say that this first year has been interesting. Imagine the same trend line playing out over 3 more years. Imagine, if you believe, as I do, that the president is cognitively impaired and getting worse by the day, what this is going to look like. This is the danger that we're facing. And at the very least, and this is not a solution, it's a beginning, not a solution. At the very least, Congress has to wake up and start asserting their Article 1 powers, at the very least.
Yep. Without a Congress that is doing its responsibility, none of the rest of it matters at this point. Like we can't fix things unless they start doing their job.
You know, it's sort of like, again, to a point Kia made yesterday, which I found pretty good. We can't count on the courts to keep rescuing us. The courts are not built for this, folks. They're not built to be in the day-to-day political life of the American people. They move very slowly, and there's a reason they move slowly. But we as a people have got to stop looking to the courts and saying, you're going to save us, aren't you? No, your Congress has to save you. Your elected day-to-day representatives who share an equal part of running the country. Those are the people who have to save us. We can't keep looking to the courts to do this. They're not designed for this. A judicial system is not designed to work in the manner that people want it to work in.
Is your money invested in the future of China? Is that why you say this? Say what?
I don't own enough money to be invested anywhere. I'm just
Is your money invested in the UN attendance? What?
What? I'm a little bit financially literate, but I've never heard of an investment in UN attendance. That's a new investment opportunity that I have not heard of.
Hi, Philip. It's almost like maybe we shouldn't just let anyone with enough money or popularity be president. And maybe we should actually take time to understand what their vote or lack of vote does. Yeah. People need to start paying attention and voting. Agendas. That still doesn't answer the question.
We've been pretty, I don't know if you've been here before. We've been pretty clear about our agendas. Our agenda is to make sure that the most amount of people in this country have access to things that will give them opportunities and a comfortable life. We want to make sure that people are fed, people are housed, people have access to health care, regardless of their socioeconomic status.
Why are we not pushing more? So here's the thing, Bonnie. The pressure that we have to put is with our votes, specifically our primary votes. When most of the country does not vote in the primaries, and we have taught every politician that it does not matter what you say when you are trying to become president or when you're running for office, you don't actually have to do what you say you're going to do, and you can get reelected as long as you say what they want to hear. They're just going to keep doing what keeps them in office. So the way you get them out of office is by voting them out, specifically in the primaries, especially if you're talking Democrats. If there are Democrats that are doing things that you don't want to do, when there's someone running against them, vote in the primaries and primary them. That teaches them that they actually have to pay attention, that they actually have to think about what they're saying. They actually have to do or try to do what they say they're going to, not promise the world knowing they can't do it. They've been taught. I mean, we heard it straight up when Trump had that meeting with Mamdani and they asked about Elise Stefanik and what she was saying on the campaign trail. What did he say? Well, she's running for office, and, you know, you say things differently when you're running for office. They learned that from us. AIPAC has nothing to do with it. The only reason money wins primaries is because people don't pay attention. That's a long-term fix, Maggie. That is not a short-term fix. Because we're not going to get that short-term unless we actually do the work. Aha. Okay. Well, good conversation there, buddy. Again, money buys ads. What do ads give? Visibility. Why does that kind of visibility work? Because people don't do their own work. They don't pay attention to who's running for office. All they know is about anybody that's running is the ads that they see. That's it. That's literally it.
Yeah, I mean, money is definitely a huge part, but it's not the only part. We proved that in the past several elections, especially when you're looking at smaller scale elections, there's been a lot of people who have won and they were not the biggest purse in the race.
We have to look long-term as we do need to consider long-term as well. But if we don't put people in office that actually are willing to make any change, then it doesn't matter what we talk about long-term. Has nothing to do with it, is wild words. AIPAC does not force you to vote or not vote in the primaries.
Moreover, there are a lot of lobbyists, especially post-Citizens United. I mean, the dark money is flowing all over the place. It's not just AIPAC, folks.
Maggie, I do agree. I'm big on the term limits thing too. I think there's just a whole lot of things that have to all happen in order for things to be quote unquote good in any kind of way, for sure. What they've been doing, they've been working on for decades, and I think they just did it so quietly sometimes that people just got complacent and weren't paying attention. I think definitely getting out, you shouldn't be able to be a 5-term senator. That's too long. I definitely agree with that. And money is the big thing. I don't know if you were here the other day, somebody that Mike had interviewed, and in case you didn't know that, he's been interviewing candidates running for office in several different states. Make sure you check that out. One of the things she said, one of the things most important to her to get rid of was money in politics. And it took me a second, and then it clicked. I totally agree. All this extra money, and like what Mike is saying, now I won't watch those ads. I turn them every time. That's why I don't watch, other than the news, sometimes I don't watch live TV where commercials are going to come on with ads. But I definitely do think getting money out of politics is a big thing. It's the fact that they're literally buying and ghostwriting all of the stuff that is happening in the background. I totally agree.
We got where we are because of decades of work by these people. And there's this desire, and it's an understandable desire, to snap fingers and fix the problem.
Yeah, I tend to agree too with Maggie and Kia. Took me a long time to come around to term limits. It really did. I was a big believer. We have elections. They are the term limits. The voters should have a choice as to whether they want to stick with an incumbent as opposed to an outside term limit. But, you know, the reality has worked out differently. We keep reelecting over 90% of incumbents year in, year out. This time, I think will be a little bit different, but this will be an anomaly, not the regular way of doing things. So as a result, I've reluctantly come to agree with Kia and Maggie that we do need term limits. In terms of financing, Citizens United, we don't need to go into. We've gone into it a million times on this platform, but it's really changed the ball game. There's just too much money in politics. I really believe one of the best investments this country could make would be public financing of congressional, senatorial, and presidential campaigns, where everybody has an equal amount of money, and that's both in the primaries and in the elections. Yes, that would cost us some money, but I think it would give us a lot cleaner government. I also think that if you want to run for any office in Congress, or the Supreme Court, or the Senate, or the presidency, you can't own stocks. You have to sell out, and that's a financial imposition to maybe some candidates. That's fine. You don't have to run, but you shouldn't own any stocks. I think if we just did a few things like that, we would have a lot cleaner politics.
What's up, Shug?
That's right, Shug. That's exactly what you heard. I am right. Good morning, Shug.
I'm sorry, I think my headphones went out again. What was that?
Yeah, I bet they did. But you're right. And now with everything that's been going on, with Greenland, what has been happening with the stock markets? Have they has it been really bad?
Well, it just opened up down 700 this morning. The Dow. Yeah. The tech bros might come to the conclusion that they bet on the wrong horse with Donald Trump. Because if Europe ever does do the bazooka option that we were talking about earlier, if they ever do the bazooka option, they're going to be the ones who get hurt the most. So.
I take issue with the stock market sometimes too, because I don't feel, this might just be my personal opinion, but I don't feel like the stock market, especially nowadays, is reflective of what the average Americans are experiencing.
I agree. I agree, but there's a lot of tech in the stock market, and they're very worried about escalating tensions with Europe. There's a lot of trade with Europe, and the most advantageous trade with Europe is in the services and technology area. And Europe has never threatened to tariff them, and they're now threatening at least to look into it. And that would change the ball game. That'd be very, very detrimental to the United States. And all for what? Because we need it militarily. No, we don't. China's going to invade Greenland? Really? Greenland's part of NATO. China wants no parts of a war with NATO. Russia is going to invade Greenland? Are you kidding me? They can't even beat Ukraine. They're not going to invade Greenland. Ever. They're a part of NATO. A war with Russia and NATO would be a very short war.
I asked because I was curious, what the effect, because couldn't actually, not even the other companies who hold our debt, but if all of those tech bros and all these people who've been doing all this bullshit dumping into AI, if they all just sold off and stuff, wouldn't that kind of be the same exact thing as if all these other countries do it? Wouldn't that be the same thing, just on a different scale?
Yeah, it'd be a cascading effect. And somebody in chat asked me what bazooka is, and so I'll explain it again. That is something that the EU has in their bylaws, which would allow them to retaliate by attaching. Right now, when they attach tariffs to the United States, it's on goods, on automobiles or building materials, clothing. You get what goods are. However, the bazooka option would allow them to attach tariffs onto services and technology. And that would be everything from social media to legal banking. Banking is very important. insurance, you name it, and technology. And that would be extraordinarily detrimental to our nation.
And also, we just when it comes to Greenland, real quick, one of the things we need to remember is a lot of people think that it's just the United States that is preventing other countries from doing anything with NATO. It's not. Like, yes, the United States has like nuclear weapons and things like that, but so does the UK, so does France. There's a lot of the things that kept other countries from doing stuff are still exist, whether the United States is a part of it or not.
Absolutely. Germany's dumping $1 trillion with a T dollars into their defense. And that's got to really warm the hearts of Russians to hear that Germany is rearming, and they are rearming rapidly. And every single NATO nation has already hit the 2% threshold for the first time ever. And they now have set the new goal of 3.5%. They call it 5%, but a 1.5 can be used for infrastructure, roads and bridges to get weaponry to where it needs to be in the event of an attack, which is dual use. But at any rate, and Poland is spending well above 5% and has been for a couple of years now. So Europe is spending their fair share. And there is an argument to be made, and a strong one, that for years Europe sort of piggybacked on the United States and didn't take their defense seriously. That's a fair criticism of Europe. But I don't think it's necessarily fair anymore. They're starting to spend the money.
Well, and there's 32 countries a part of NATO. People who are talking about, they don't care about NATO, I don't think they even understand, one, what NATO is, and two, how large it actually is. America is not some dominant, all-powerful being that is the only one that has defense forces. When you combine the 31 other countries and you take America out, they are larger than us.
They're larger than us economically. Yes, they have the ability to be larger than us militarily if they so choose. But right now, NATO, the beauty of NATO is that it's integrated. We do certain things, the Germans do certain things, the French do certain things, the British do certain things. I mean, that's the beauty of NATO. And now Finland and Sweden are doing an awful lot, actually. And we're working together. Why in God's name would we ever throw that away? I'd like to hear one good reason. I really would. I'd like to hear one good reason.
Not to mention, it's not even like the United States hasn't benefited greatly from its spending of extra. I mean, we've got massive bases in places like Germany that have been of value for us over the decades that would be gone if we were no longer, we've got over 40 bases in the EU alone. Those would all be gone.
In terms of the projection of American power, there's never been a nation in the history of Earth that could project power the way the United States can. And part of it is our Navy with our aircraft carriers. That is a hell of a platform for projecting power. It is dwarfed by what Mike just said. Our real power is in those overseas bases. That's our real power. And if we're out of NATO, there go those bases.
And again, we're also assuming that nobody else would respond similarly to the EU. They may not, but if the US leaves NATO, if I were a different country that even wasn't part of NATO, I would strongly consider whether I want to be associated with the United States anymore too.
Well, ask yourself, that's a good point. Ask yourself this question. If the United States, and we used to have SATO, the Southeast Treaty Organization, that was for the Pacific, NATO in Europe, SATO in the Pacific. What happens to the strategic thinking of Japan South Korea, Australia, the Philippines, Taiwan, if the United States and NATO have a divorce? What happens to their strategic thinking? Well, I'll tell you what happens. They start accepting some sort of Chinese hegemony, or they form their own alliance. We don't know, but in that game of musical chairs, there will be one nation without a seat, and that's going to be the United States.
Yep. Because again, the one thing that no one seems to realize is a vast majority of what we have got, like, as what we have used to make our military as powerful as it is, and our economy as big as it is, would be gone, which is access to potentially other countries and their land or bases and their supplies. We don't have the resources for making all the chips that we use. We don't have the resources for a lot of what we have and use. We would be screwed.
You know, Mike, during the Cold War, NATO matched up against the Warsaw Pact. You're old enough to remember that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there was a big difference between NATO and the Warsaw Pact. And at the time, the Warsaw Pact had much greater conventional forces than NATO had. NATO was backed up by America's nuclear forces. But NATO was a voluntary organization of shared interests, shared values, and shared responsibilities. The Warsaw Pact was 50% military, 150% more of coercion against the Eastern European nations, which is why those Eastern European nations went on their own with the fall of the Soviet Union, and none of them, except for Hungary and Slovenia, are aligned with Russia right now. None of them. And those two aren't even full partners with Russia. They're partners of convenience. Yeah, they were coerced into it. Now look at American foreign policy. Tariffs, threatening Greenland. We are coercing our friends into trade agreements. We are coercing our friends into territorial land grabs. We are doing the exact same thing that the Soviet Union did post-World War II until its breakup in 1989. And it will end up just as well for us as it did for the Soviet Union.
Correct, Melanie. Our military would have to leave. Yep.
Just let you know, Grace was trying to gift memberships on the other side, and for whatever reason, it's not giving her the option.
Yeah, I saw that. I was looking into it. Everything I'm seeing on my, I mean, we've had other people be able to do it, so I don't.
And I don't have the option either. I don't know.
Well, I know you have to have, like, you have to have a card and stuff on file to be able to do it. So unless you've done that, you wouldn't get that option. But I don't know. I mean, I'll look into it some, but the fact that other people can means there's got to be something else going on.
See, I didn't even see anything about the having to have a payment file thing on options. So sorry, let me try that again. Allergy medicines are kicking in. Having a payment thing on file, so that might be it, Grace. That may be why it's not working, because I didn't know that was even something you had to have.
That's funny, Kia. I was going to ask you if you had a cold or something today, because your voice, it doesn't sound bad. It just sounds a little bit different than the normal Kia voice.
Yeah, my face, like my eyes are all puffy. My face is like puffy. My allergies are really bad today. I'm really itchy. It's kind of miserable. Good morning, Patty.
Hope you feel better soon. Hello, everyone.
Thank you.
Hey, What's up, Suge? Hi,
Not
Patty.
much. I think, and what you all have been saying and have been alluding to this entire time is at what cost?
Restaurants.
At what cost?
Restaurants.
What boy? Restaurants? You say no? Well, go ahead. Pretend. Yeah, make something about your restaurant. Go ahead. Um, okay, like you said, if like I was saying, okay, let's say somehow somebody came up with some reason why it would be good for us, so to speak, in quotes, to leave NATO. They're like, hey man, if we do this, this will go up, this will go up. We don't have to concern ourselves with X, Y, or Z or whatever. We'll be in a better spot. Okay, so then what happens when multiple people are trying to gang up, or what happens when we can't do it on an island, right? Everybody needs to have allies and allied nation around them. Okay, I will, son. So at what cost is the real thing that you're up against, and what you have to consider. You don't just willy-nilly go off and do things.
Up to now in the Trump administration, Europe has basically tried to appease Trump. They give him trophies. They compliment him. They treat him like a toddler. Frankly, anybody can see through what they're doing. But now he's pushed them into a corner. And it would be wise for American foreign policy for us to realize that Europe is not without their own resources, that Europe is not without the ability to inflict a severe amount of pain upon the United States. And as Shug just said, and as I brought up earlier, to what purpose? To what purpose? What are we gaining from this? What are we gaining outside of some obscure 19th century spheres of influence type of foreign policy where we coerce our friends and coerce our neighbors, which eventually will lead to a diminution of our friendships and alliances throughout the world? I mean, they already have, frankly. And I think the time for the European appeasement of Donald Trump is quickly drawing to an end. I think they are going to get their backs up. And if we make a move against Greenland, we're going to find out just how bad that will be.
You finally found a U.S. live with sane people, and this happens. Yeah. I mean, I appreciate you consider us sane. I think there are days where I don't feel sane, but, I appreciate that you feel the live is sane. Make sure, for everyone, just want to put this out there, just so you know, I'm also live over on the tube. I actually go live 30 minutes before I go live here on TikTok. And I post stuff over there pretty regularly. There was supposed to be one that came out today. I'm just a little behind. It'll probably come out a little bit after. Problem with doing all of these recordings is I got to find time to actually edit everything. So it's put me a little behind. But there'll be a ton more episodes coming out. Your TikTok was wigging out, so you came here. It's funny. Summer actually came over to TikTok because they said their tube was wigging out. The internet. Gotta love it.
Mission makes a very good point in chat. She says at some point Congress has to start thinking about their lives after Donald Trump. And she's right. They should start thinking about that now. Because, and I'm not saying this as someone who doesn't like Donald Trump, and I don't like Donald Trump. There's no secret about that. I don't think anybody on this panel, and certainly our hosts, doesn't like Donald Trump. But the bottom line is none of what he is doing is politically advantageous for the Republican Party. And that's the understatement of the century. He is literally driving them off a cliff. He is the captain of the Trump-tanic, and he's taking the Republican Party brand down with him. Anytime you have only 16% of the American people in favor of acquiring Greenland and only 4% say they want to take it by force, he is doing things that are against their own political interests. And one would tend to think that at some point, Congress would say, look, I've been with you up to now because I'm afraid of your cult, but I'm never going to get reelected if I keep putting up with the crazy. and I've got to look to my own future. And one would think that that would start to come.
You'd think.
Personally, I don't think personally, and this is for me, I don't think I can trust anybody who's that blindly loyal to him at all. Because to me, you're just setting the precedence of, if there's somebody who you think that you can align yourself with that'll give you that much leeway to run around and do whatever stupid thing you think you should be doing, then you'll do it again. So I don't even care. Like, unless, don't get me wrong, I'm not above forgiving anyone. I want to make that very clear. I'm not above forgiving anyone or giving anyone a chance. But what I won't do is sit there and watch you keep the same attitude and behavior you have now and then go, oh, they started to distance themselves. No, distance yourself don't mean nothing to me. Show me that you're not going to be riding for stupidity when you see people say stupid stuff or do stupid stuff. That's what I need to see. I need to see a change in you. I don't need to see, oh, I'm going to just, I'm not going to say anything against him, but I'm not going to say something for him either. Nah, that's not good enough for me. You're going to have to get your act together.
They've been too afraid of his base, and they've been too afraid of getting primaried for too long. And it's going to end up sinking them. And we're going to, look, maybe I'm wrong. We're going to find out in about 10 months. We're going to find out. And it's not going to be pretty. The first thing I said this morning when I got up around 3 a.m. and read his tweets to the European leaders, which are so bizarre, they had me laughing. They were so bizarre. But the first thing I thought is, he's going to blow it in the Senate. He just handed the Senate to the Democrats. Yeah, the House is gone, but he just handed them the Senate. This is that nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're seeing, and again, this is why you need to watch the videos that I'm posting of people that are running, because again, obviously there's no guarantee, especially in things where there are primaries going on. But these are the kind of questions that I'm asking people of what they're experiencing when they're talking with people that may be more conservative. And there are less and less. The people that are running for office, especially that are more progressive, are doing the work in a way that pretty much no, especially Republican, but even a lot of Democratic politicians haven't been doing, which is going around everywhere, even into red districts, and talking with the people. And they obviously there's still a struggle, because identity politics are hard to just start ignoring. But in the same respect, I think things are starting to get so bad that they're starting to realize that status quo is not, they were lied to, and the status quo is not something we can keep doing.
Well, and there's something else that at some point you have to realize that the leader of your party and the president of the United States is not sane.
Well, yeah,
he's not sane.
I'm saying it's even more than that. It's all of the people. The fact is you look at these people that are running for Congress, their representatives haven't held town halls in years, if not decades. DeWolf, grow up. Politicians are destroying America right now. The status quo is destroying America right now.
Thing is, Scott, even if the thing is, them not realizing him not being sane or not, like I said, this is the thing that I've always said and I will continue to say. he's never evidenced himself to be a good dude. Even when he was quote unquote sane, he's always been a scumbag as far as I'm concerned, to be quite frank. So it's just saying or not saying. He's never done great stuff historically.
There's a difference, though, Papa. Now he has his
What's that?
finger on the nuclear weapons.
That's true.
That's the
Fair.
difference.
That's fair.
I'm from New Jersey. I've known of Donald Trump for over 40 years. He's always been a scumbag from day one.
Yeah.
That's not the issue. There's lots of scumbags in the world. The
You're right.
problem is that this is a man in severe cognitive decline from whatever reason. Maybe it's dementia. Maybe it's something else. Maybe he's just insane. Doesn't matter. He has his hands on the nuclear weapons.
And I
We are
respect
seeing him cause things that before would have been a Saturday Night Live routine, and we're seeing it happen on a daily basis. This has got to be terrifying. I'm going to curse here, where the fuck is Congress? Why aren't they doing their job? I don't give a shit what party you're in. Why aren't you doing your job? This man is clearly not well for whatever reason. It is so you don't need to be a doctor to figure that out. He is not well. This is putting 340 million lives at risk. This is dangerous stuff.
I think because the ones that agree with him, Scott, or those that are pushing for him are also doing their own thing in the background and on the sides and benefiting from what he's doing. So why would they put a stop to it when they're benefiting in ways that we don't necessarily get to see? We know they're benefiting from it. They're getting stuff pushed in and put in, bills and shit that would have never, ever 20, 30 years ago, you wouldn't have thought about it. But now it's like they're just pushing all this stuff forward. And I think that's definitely where it comes to. But I fucking agree with you. Like, yo, but this is to me where it kind of comes back to that whole term limits thing. These people should not keep getting to run over and over and over again. And yes, voting is the part, we're the one that select it. But if we know after 3, 4 to 2, or let's say 2 or 3 times that somebody in Senate can run, they can run 2 or 3 times. Like a lot of the governors, we know at least when they're done, they're done. They can't stay there.
Yeah, I was talking more about Congress, which I don't know how many of them are actually benefiting financially from Trump. I do imagine that just about his entire cabinet and those in the administration and his friends are certainly benefiting financially from the actions of the president. And the president, according to today's New York Times, we're up to $1.5 billion. He's increased his net worth this year. Yeah. 1.5 billion. I mean, the corruption is so naked and so in the open, it's ridiculous. He's going to sell Venezuelan oil and keep it in an offshore account. What? You're going to do what? Think about that. It's, again, I'm using the same word. It's insane.
I'm speaking of Congress too. You don't think that they're not doing stuff in this background where they're working with their business partner, their friends, getting them contracts, getting stuff passed, having the president and his administration back them into getting to do things in their states that they want done? Doesn't necessarily have to be a big financial windfall, but I do think the ones that are not speaking about it, the ones that have always agreed with it, I do believe they're getting something in some way, whether it is insider trading, whatever it is. I do think the ones that are not speaking about him are benefiting in some way. It may not be billions of dollars in their bank account, but they're benefiting.
And you might very well be right. Look, the corruption is so thick that it probably goes pretty deep too. That's not my point. I think the main reason the Congress acts the way that they do, meaning the Republicans in Congress, is not so much financial gain or pecuniary gain. It's political. They're terrified of the Trump base. They're terrified of being primaried. And according to inside reporting, they're terrified of physical harm if they buck Trump. They're terrified that his base will get violent.
No, maybe they should have dealt with him after January 6th. Shocker.
Now, the
Well,
world
send
would
it.
be different if Mitch McConnell had done what he should have done.
If they would have convicted him in the Senate that first time, we would be done. Or the second time, we would not be here, and he wouldn't have been able to run. But alas, I mean, this whole abdication of their jobs they've been doing it for a long time. You figure, oh boy, literally stood up and said that he was gonna actively do everything in his power to not get anything passed that Obama wanted. How were people okay with that? It's insane.
You know, when the history of this is written, and it will be, the thing that'll be most amazing is all the off-ramps we had that we didn't take. All the off-ramps the Republican Party had in 2015 when he went down the golden staircase. All the off-ramps we had, you mentioned two of them, the first impeachment, the second impeachment. All the off-ramps we had where we could have, if we'd have just begun the criminal cases earlier in the Biden administration, it's just one tragic mistake after another has led us to where we are today. There were a lot of off-ramps we could have taken that would have prevented this monster. And here we are.
Yep. Which is why I still say I think long term there's going to be some massive change in how our government looks, whether it's a new constitution or just amendments to the current one. Hopefully it's a new one, but who knows?
Scott, there's a question. Oh, I'm sorry. There's a question on the other side. Silverhead asked, can this money they all have made be seized after this is over? Can they be brought up in RICO charges?
If it's illegal, absolutely. The immunity that was granted by the Supreme Court to Trump, to begin with, is not absolute. It's a misnomer that it's absolute. But it does not extend to any of his cabinet. It does not extend to any members of Congress. And what you would need is a president, unlike Joe Biden, who waited and hoped that the whole thing would just go away, an attorney general, unlike Merrick Garland, who waited and hoped that he would just go away. And I think you're going to get one, because if the Democrats win the midterms, don't forget, that makes the Democrats favorites in 2028. And there are a lot of Democrats who have a little bit of a mean streak in them. They have a tough streak in them. Gavin Newsom, Pritzker, Vice President Harris. You think they're going to act like Joe Biden did? Nope. Day one, that Justice Department will be awfully busy. And here's another thing to remember. Oh, he's just going to pardon everybody on his way out the door, and I think he might. He very well might. But there's been an awful lot of state crimes committed here, and there's no pardon power for that.
Grace figured out how to send her membership. Thank you, Grace.
Thank you, Grace.
Only progressives and socialists.
Gina.
Screw the dams.
Gina.
All right, Jethro.
No, I'm not dealing. We names mean nothing. Titles mean nothing. This is an identity politics thing again. You can identity politics progressives and socialists just as much as Dems. Those are just names. People have to run as Dems. In this current administration, people have to run as Dems if they want to get in.
Melanie, you say, I hope you're right about accountability. I don't know if I'm right. I don't know. I'm simply saying we have to have a different type of administration than the way that the Biden-Merrick Garland combo handled it. And if the Democrats don't do that, well, that's on them, because then it'll just happen again with some future rogue president, and they'll be dooming the United States to another round of insanity. So I hope we've learned our lesson that putting your head in the sand and hoping that the fever dies down is no way to deal with the fever.
And you know what? If AOC or Frost run, that'll be something that we'll pay attention to. In the end, we're going to pay attention to everybody. Doesn't really matter who it is in the grand scheme of things at this point. Like, we can put out any name we want. Let's see who runs. Let's see how they run. Let's see what they say, and then we'll go from there. By the way, I wouldn't vote for Bernie if he ran right now. He's old too.
He's too old.
He's old too.
like I like because of the fact that we have to vote, one party or the other, and I think I just leave mine. Mine is left as dim. I know my brain, I know my mind, and I know how it works. Trying to remember to switch back and forth does not work for me. So
Good.
I'm not going to do it.
Yep.
I'm not going to do that. I can barely focus on living day to day and keeping my brain halfway healthy. So um I will leave it at that. We have to make sure we can't wait till it's people being unalived on camera for us to be pissed off and saying stuff.
hmm
Like it has to be, we have to keep going. The protests, the musical festivals, have to continue going. Like I watch when I see those people out there still in Minneapolis, I'm just like we just in all the other cities, we just have to keep it going. It just has to keep going. We can't stop. We can't stop telling people um oh, she's still sending out memberships over
Yep.
there. Silver, you got a membership from Grace.
And if AOC was running, I, you know, I love the idea of AOC. I'd have to see how she did, just like with anyone else. Again, this is what I tell everyone. Who I vote for is based on, especially in the primaries, is based on who is the closest to my absolute, like, how I want to see the country from beginning to end. Who fits that the entirety. That's what the primaries are for. The primaries are where you vote for who you want to see, how you want the world, who you think will do the best for this country. That's what primaries are for. General election is a different story. And if we get to a point where someone wins the primary and we go, oh, I'm not voting for this person, that's the problem at that point.
Melanie had brought up in chat that she's not at all certain we'll have a midterms. I don't agree. I think that we will have midterms. Or to put it another way, if for some reason we didn't have a midterms, well, then that's the ball game. That's the end of the country. So I do think we will have a midterms. That's sort of in the Constitution. We had a civil war. We had elections. We had elections throughout World War I and World War II. We'll have elections now. So I do believe that we will have a midterms. I do believe that Trump will do the best he can to use voter intimidation and other tactics. If you take a look at the history of that, it affects some votes, no doubt about it. But I think this is going to be so overwhelming that there's nothing he can do to stop it.
Here's the reality. We have had how many special elections so far in 2025?
Oh, about 56, 57.
And how many have Democrats won? Some in red states?
The average Democratic margin above 2024 in the same districts has been plus 16. The Democrats are outperforming by an average of 16. Of the 57 special elections, only one election saw a Republican do better than he did in 2024. That was by 1 point in a D46 district. So the Democrat only won by 45 points as opposed to winning by 46 the election before. Outside of that, the Democrats are thumping them.
KD, I know you can't talk anymore, but I don't have a party. I don't identify with a party. Grow up. So the reality is elections have happened. All of 2025, they happened. Democrats won in red states. They still happened. There is plenty of evidence that they have done shady shit to make it hard for people to vote, to limit the voting in areas that are considered more quote unquote blue. We've been talking about it. North Carolina's doing it. They're removing drop-off boxes in colleges. Because why? Because colleges tend to lean blue. So there's no doubt that they're doing shady shit. But that is massively different than canceling elections or anything like that. There will be midterm elections. Now, again, I'm saying this as it stands right now. Mike, he cannot refuse to swear them in. So again, this is a reminder of how things work. November, whatever, of 2026 happens. Everyone wins. January 2nd comes around. Everyone who won their elections in the House of Representatives goes into Congress and they pick a Speaker of the House. And then that Speaker of the House swears them in. Mike Johnson, once January 2nd comes around, Mike Johnson is not anything anymore. Now, if Republicans happen to win more seats, could he be the Speaker of the House again? Absolutely. And then we see what happens. But it's not, and even if we're talking the president stuff, that's the accepting, quote unquote, which, by the way, I'll also point out that a law was made after January 6th, 2021, that made everything that happens in Congress regarding the presidential election ceremonial. They don't have the capability of not accepting anything anymore for that specific reason.
Actually, it was always ceremonial, but they made it officially ceremonial
Right.
so that nobody tries that bullshit again.
Correct.
You want to know when the electoral votes become official? When the governor signs it weeks before. The governor of each state, when they sign the document and mail it to the electors and to the Congress in Washington. That's when it's official. So if Mike Pence had listened to Trump and refused to count the votes, doesn't make any difference. Joe Biden is still inaugurated at noon on January 20th. Wouldn't have mattered what Mike Pence did. And Mike Pence knew that and tried to explain it to Trump, but Trump wasn't listening.
So we need to remember all of that. There are valid reasons why, and this is one of them, why the states oversee things. Now, do I think there needs to be some general rules that all states must adhere to when it comes to federal elections? Yes, personally, I think there needs to be. But those rules mean that federal elections are handled exactly the same in every state. It shouldn't look different. Because we are voting for federal positions, I think there should be some equality to how those happen. But in terms of who signing off on things and having the elections, those still get run by the states. And this is one of those reasons why it gets run by the states. And we had actually talked about this. I forget if it was in this live or if it was like Lewis's live or someone else's. I can't remember. If there are states that decide that they're not going to be a part of some election for whatever reason, that means they lose a say. You're talking sense. Again, there is a difference between everything is always based on what potentially could happen in the future. We're talking about what's going on now. We don't know the future. We don't know the future. We know now. And now elections are happening. And Democrats are winning. And no one is stopping Democrats from winning. Now, there's a lot of things they're doing to delay people getting in. I think if this is one of the reasons that we say get out and vote, because if the things are too close, you're going to deal with the same thing we dealt with in the North Carolina Supreme Court shenanigans that we don't want to deal with anymore. That's just so But in terms of will there be elections? Of course there'll be elections. And if something happens that changes that view, then me at least will change my view on how we respond to it. But right now, elections are happening. Democrats are winning.
You know, they're an awful. You can at least be rest assured about this: shenanigans going on before the elections and during the election. Absolutely, those are always worries and have been ever since we've been a country. And I have no doubt that they're going to try and pull all sorts of bullshit this time. I have no doubt. Everything from voting boxes to taking them away from college campuses to making people in minority districts wait in long lines. You know the drill. We've all seen it before. There's nothing new about that. The amount of votes that it actually prevents happening is too many, but it's not enough to shift the overall scope of a national election. So the elections are going to happen. The bullshit that they try is going to work marginally at best and not affect the overall outcome, especially in the votes for the House and the Senate. And then there's not going to be an interference with people taking their oaths of office because that's dictated by the Constitution. And if, by the way, we lose that, then we're now in a military dictatorship and an autocracy, and we're talking about something completely different.
Yep.
We're talking about a new form of government called a dictatorship or an autocracy or whatever word you want to use. Because according to the rules we live by now, the sanctity of elections is fairly well assured.
And in the end, if that happens, then everything we're talking about is different. The whole, like how we deal with it, what goes on, it's all different at that point. Yeah, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say something about what we were talking about. Like, gosh, it seems like a long time ago now. And I don't remember. I was trying to speak before Scott spoke the first time, and now just kind of listen to the two of you guys. Like, I just, I don't remember anymore, so I'll just go on mute.
Well, Kia, I think we were talking about Melanie's point. She's afraid that the midterms might not happen, if that jars your memory.
I'm trying. I'm sitting over here, like I'm even looking through the comments and the other side because I constantly are trying to watch that and keep up with it. But yeah, I don't like for some reason like that part. Something that Di said stuck with me, and she said, you know how people keep talking about this whole what's the word when the military's in charge? Martial law. And she said that as long as our courts are still running, whether they're slow or not, as long as this court system is still running, then we are not under martial law. As long as the courts are still running, then then the government is still running mostly as the way it should be. And yeah, with the midterms, I think part of the problem is what happens is we should be used to by now this person saying all this crazy shit that we don't jump on everything that he says and get instantly like terrified and worried about it. I think we have to make sure that we're doing our own diligence and doing our own research into how the government actually works. And so that way it doesn't scare you as much, because if you have that information, it won't scare you as much. If you have that knowledge, it won't scare you as much.
Somebody asked in chat, I apologize, I didn't get your name because it scrolled by too fast. Talking about the Insurrection Act, which I believe is what I was referring to in what Kia was describing. The way it works usually is that a governor or a state legislature of a state will request federal troops. For instance, during the Rodney King riots in Los Angeles in 1993, I may have the year off, the governor of California requested federal troops. So the Insurrection Act was invoked by, I believe that was President Clinton. Yeah, it might be 92 then, whatever it was. At any rate, there are provisions for the president to go in without the permission of the states, which is what Donald Trump is threatening to do. Here is what Di was getting at. It is important to note that even if the troops go into a city, they are still subject to every other law of the United States. No other laws, the laws of search and seizure, the laws of not being able to enter your home without a warrant, all of those laws still apply. So I would encourage people, if the worst happens and the president does the Insurrection Act, to keep calm, because your civil liberties are still protected. Nothing in the Insurrection Act, and it's specifically laid out in the Insurrection Act, that nothing in the Insurrection Act can absolve any federal troops from obeying all other constitutional protections of the citizenry. I'm sorry, I'm losing my voice a bit. So that's important to recall, and I do believe, Kia, that that's what Di was getting at, that our protections are still there even if the worst happens.
We didn't talk about the Insurrection Act at all. That's not what we were discussing. Somebody asked if we would have elections under martial law, like specifically under the term martial law. She talked about what martial law was and then made the comment about what I said. It wasn't anything about the Insurrection Act. It wasn't anything like that that came up in the chat. It was a question that happened in the chat.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I was like, no, that's not what we were talking about. We weren't talking about that. She was going over, Di's been going over reading like a lot of older cases that have happened in SCOTUS that have long-term effect have been, and and how what's happening right now is actively attacking and going after some of that stuff, along with the current cases that are happening right now.
So, and again, we need when people are talking about no one is following the law, people are following the law. What's happening is they are trying to reinterpret the law to allow them to do what they're doing. So we're seeing it as them breaking the law. And again, I agree with you. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here trying to defend anything they're doing. Most of what they are doing involves reinterpreting laws that already exist to allow them to do what they're doing. And that's how they are trying to fight it. How they respond, which is one of the reasons why the DOJ's response to the Epstein files is frightening, because that is an attempt to limit the ability to hold them to account for following the law. That being said, as it stands right now, what they are doing is interpreting the law in a way that allows them to do what they're doing. Concentration camps in the United States are not a new thing. Again, you're talking to someone who has been very vocal about what ICE is doing. I'm not defending them in any way. We as a country have been pretty bad when it's come to that kind of stuff. We all, the problem with any laws, unless they are blatant, absolutely blatant, is they're subject to interpretation and opinion. And that's what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, what bothered me so much about the DOJ filing was the second argument that they made before the court, stripping the courts of any authority to enforce the Epstein Act, and basically saying that there is no cause of action created by what Congress passed, which is rather extreme, to put it mildly, rather extreme. That would mean that Congress passes a law, and if there is a violation of that law, there's no remedy for that. Well, isn't that interesting? It's one of the most extreme arguments I've heard. So that's what's so troubling to me about what the DOJ is doing. And I think, again, forget the law part of it, because that's irrelevant in a way. What it shows is the mindset of the administration, that they have utterly no intention of releasing those documents ever for any reason. They aren't going to do it. It would not surprise me that when the courts shoot this down, it wouldn't shock me if Bondi just somehow the evidence disappears. You know, she would be brought up on obstruction charges, but she wouldn't be because Trump would pardon her.
Yep. Now, again, are they breaking the law? In my opinion, in many ways, yes. But this is the issue that we always that we've dealt with every president. You know, when you get people sitting there saying, "Oh, well, Obama did it." Well, there were protests to what Obama did when it came to immigration. There were not one. It was called Not One More protests. Those happened. There was a lot of things that happened back then.
I don't know if that's.
I looked it up.
That was bad what he did with that, but I don't think that every other president has been as bad as Trump. Like,
I didn't say everyone has been as bad. I mean, there are obviously levels, but almost every president, if not every president, has done something that you could argue was bad.
Yeah, I would argue that there's no historical analogy to what Donald Trump has done.
Sure.
Yeah, just none. In fact, there's nothing even close.
Sure. No,
that's not what you meant, but how you said it, that's not how it came out. How you said it, it was kind of like almost a whataboutism without saying the word what about.
I was saying that's what other people are doing.
Okay, it just didn't come across that way. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about the fact that that's the argument. You see a lot of people that are on the right saying, "Well, why didn't you do this with Obama?" I'm looking. I saw a video today about it. Pissed me off. But anyways,
the fact that we have to keep going to presidents from multiple years ago instead of dealing with the fucking issue is right now, because when your only defense is to talk about somebody else, that means you've lost and you're losing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing about it. It's like, sometimes I get frustrated when people say, you know, it is frustrating what we see is happening. And then we see the court cases, and the court cases are slow. But there is a reason there are 500 something plus court cases, because people are being sued and things are being done. It's just not happening right in front of our faces the way that we want to see it happen. Stop saying that there is no law for ICE and that there is no protection against ICE. Like, don't give people that are already scared, upset, and terrified about what's going on, don't put that kind of thought process in their head, because that's not true.
There are going to be, one of the things you are going to see is bots that are going to come in and make videos and make comments to try and make people think that your vote doesn't matter. That is the new thing that's going to happen. It's already happening.
The other thing that's going on is all these people, and I was hearing a little bit about it, but I didn't ever actually see it. And then I started hearing it in the lives. People who are quote unquote saying that they're leftists, telling people they don't vote, their vote don't matter, and all these other horrible things. Like, no, just no. That is not the kind of message that we need to be spreading. Should we be afraid of ICE? Yes and no. But at the end of the day, by you just saying there's no laws, we just got to be afraid of them, nothing is going to change. That's how people don't stick up for it. That's how you become complicit and you just put your head in the sand and you let them do whatever they want to do. That is not the kind of energy and the kind of messaging that we need right now.
Yeah, I agree with the comment that James just made in chat, and also the comments that you guys said. Look, there have already been at least 500, reply up to about 600-700 cases now. There are going to be thousands of cases filed against ICE. There will be retribution. The legal system moves slowly, and it moves slowly for a reason. It moves slowly, but there will be retribution for all of this. And don't forget something else, that there are a lot of state laws that are being violated, and there can be no pardon for state laws. So just, it's hard to say when we're in the middle of a crisis, and we are. It's hard to say be patient, and I understand that. You can be afraid. I understand that too. But don't think that we are not without resources, because we are. We do have resources, and they will come to bear. And also remember this, Donald Trump is not immune to something that every second-term president faces. The day the midterms end, he is the lamest of lame ducks, and the attention of the country will turn to his successor in both parties. He will get weaker and have less power. And that is true for popular presidents, too. That was true for Reagan. That was true for Eisenhower. That was true for Bill Clinton and Obama. The last 2 years of their second terms, they didn't get much done because the power was seeping away. That's the nature of the American political system, and that will happen to Trump as well. So we are 3 years away today. We are 3 years away, but in many respects, we're less than a year away. So please keep the faith.
Should we just let things happen and look the other way? No, at no moment has anyone said that, Marie. Literally not once.
No, quite the opposite. We have to make sure we vote. We have to make sure we stay engaged, and we have to make sure that we fight. Absolutely. But what I'm saying is that after the midterms, when there is at least one branch of government that's going to be under the Democrats, and the way Trump is going, it's going to be both branches of Congress will be under the Democrats. His legislative agenda will come to an end. His ability to appoint these lunatic judges will come to an end. There will be a lot of changes, and his political power will start to seep.
You said you're pouring gas on the fire because you're saying they won't ever be held accountable.
You said nobody.
Nobody will do it.
That's not true.
That literally goes against everything that we were just saying. Putting absolutes on anything is like saying, what's the point? Just give up. Nobody's ever going to do it. Just give up. That's what happens when you put an absolute like that into the world. We're saying stop putting absolutes in. Point out what's wrong. Let's try and fix it. If things happen that change the reality, 250 years of relations destroyed in a year. No, not 250 years. Relations have changed a lot in 250 years.
But I get what you're saying, Pinsky. All of our relations that we've built in over the decades that we've done it, they have been destroyed.
Yeah, it's going to be different. It's going to be different.
And that's the pity of it, because especially in foreign affairs, once trust is broken, it is very difficult to regain trust. And that's true whether you're talking about politics or your personal relationships. When we all know when somebody breaks our trust, it is very hard and sometimes impossible to rebuild that trust. As the head of the French National Assembly put it best, he said, European security cannot rest upon the whims of uninformed Wisconsin voters every 4 years. The Europeans now know that we're just one election away from going back to crazy town. So assuming we get a rational president next time, why should anybody believe that we won't go right back to crazy town? That's reasonable for them to believe it, and that is the permanent damage that's being done. It'll take a lot of years to fix that. More than one administration. We're going to have to, basically, instead of it being assumed that America is a trustworthy nation, we're going to have to go all the way back to square one, and we're going to have to earn that trust again. That is the long-term damage that has been caused by this man. We're going to have to earn our trust throughout the world again.
And the reality is, and I'm saying this because I honestly believe it, it probably needed to change. America does not need to be the be all end all of the world. I would much rather it actually be a world that is running on the equal. It shouldn't just be the United States having all the say and all the power and all the everything. We got that because we were the last man standing after a global war. That we didn't do anything in particular to get that. We happen to have ocean between us and the wars. And that helped. And we used it and we grew because of it. And then we got too big for our britches. And now American exceptionalism is at its worst. He's definitely destroying the world. He's not destroying the world. The world is realizing they don't need the US. That's not a bad thing. Is it going to hurt us for a bit? Yeah, I think it is. It's going to hurt.
Well, McRae, I understand your sentiment, and certainly the lion's share of the credit for the victory over Adolf and his gang does rest with the Soviet Union. However, we did everything in the war against Japan. So it's not quite true that the USSR won World War II. They played the primary role in defeating Adolf.
And again, it's not who won in terms of the actual war. I'm saying we came out of it. We didn't have cities bombed out and like most of Europe and Russia and all those areas did. We came back and people came back and we kept going. We still had a military might. We still had industrial complex. We still had all of that, where a lot were the rest of the country, the rest of the world was, at least the industrial world was struggling, had to rebuild.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, at the end of the Second World War, the United States, with less than 5% of the world's population, controlled 50% of the world's GDP. Germany was in ashes. Japan was in ashes. Russia was utterly destroyed. Britain was flat broke. France was a defeated nation. I mean, we controlled. We were the, as Mike said, we were the last guy standing, and we had built a tremendous economy, yanking us out of the remnants of the Great Depression due to war spending, and it exploded. The American economy exploded. We created an entire world order that largely benefited the United States and now is being torn apart. For what reason exactly? I don't know. I don't know why we're tearing it all apart. I don't know why we're destroying our alliances, both economic and military. I don't know why we're doing that.
And McRae,
doesn't make any sense.
You're right. If it wasn't for Pearl Harbor, who knows what would have happened? None of that is in question. We're just talking about why the US came out and became the power it did. And it did because we were here instead of we're where we are on locationally compared to other things. But yes, no argument that we were bad in many cases. Even back then, there was a lot of problems with the US. A lot.
You want to do the commercial?
Sure.
Scott?
Sure, my voice holds out. Well, folks, it's been a far-ranging and interesting discussion, as always. And who is that thanks to? Well, that's thanks to your content creator and host, Mike. Now, if you look in the upper left-hand corner, you know what you're going to see. You're going to see his name. And you also know that's not what I want you to pay attention to. I want you to pay attention to that little orange heart. Please give that orange heart a tap, and down will come a screen. And on the right-hand side of that screen are going to be 6 small rectangular boxes. Some will be blank. You don't have to pay attention to those. However, some will be shaded in black. Please give a little tap on those black boxes. That way your hardworking content creator, Mike, gets points. But guess what? Oh, you already know what I'm going to say. You get the points too. You get points. Mike gets points. No tariffs. Everybody comes out a winner here. How can you do better than that? Now, folks, we've talked an awful lot about the tube of you. And within 48 hours, Mike, is when the D-Day comes for TikTok. In 48 hours, new ownership will take place here in TikTok. We don't yet know what that means for us, for this community, for this broadcast here or podcast here on TikTok, but it may not be good. We have to at least face up to that fact that that's indeed possible. Therefore, what does that mean? It's incumbent upon all of us in this community to become more familiar with the tube of you. Mike's podcast runs simultaneously to this one, and indeed starts a half hour earlier over on the tube of you. You get certain benefits with that. You get better graphics, and in chat, you can say whatever you want. You don't have to say pew pew. You don't have to say unalive. You don't have to say the I country in the Middle East. In other words, you get to speak like a real functioning adult over there. Try it out. I think you'll like it. And also try out Mike's content there. Right now, he's busy interviewing a lot of different political candidates. They're all very interesting conversations. His guests are interesting, and so is he. So that leads to a pretty good 40 minutes to an hour long view time for all of you. I think you'll enjoy it. But let's say you don't like politics. Well, there's plenty of different subject matter that Mike's covers over there, and you're going to find something that interests you. The point is, pick out a couple of videos that interest you and watch them. I promise you, it's a hell of a way to spend 40 minutes in the morning when you're having your coffee, or maybe before you go to bed. Whenever you've got some free time in the day, it's a good way to spend it. And don't take my word for it. Just try one. If you like it, you'll know what I mean.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah. And I put this out to everybody, especially because there's a place on the Discord for it. Our goal is to interview as many people as possible that are running for office, especially progressives, people that don't want the status quo anymore. So if you know anyone, or if someone in your area or district is running, please shoot us who it is. We'd love to, we'll reach out to them or talk to them for us and have them reach out to us. I want to interview literally as many as possible. Actually, again, if you saw the video, so tomorrow evening, 8 Eastern, I'm going to be going live with Leah Staten. I can never remember how to say her last name. Leela Staten. She is running for Iowa State District, 22-year-old running for Iowa State House. She's going to come on live, and we're just going to talk about her. She's going to answer questions if anyone's got them. And we'll be doing a lot of stuff like that, especially once we get through a lot of the primaries. We might be doing it more. Just a whole group of people that will come, and a whole group of people running. Let them talk about what they believe and meet each other even. So
Mike, can I make a suggestion on that?
Sure.
You've interviewed a lot of people. In effect, right now, they're running in primaries. That's what they're running in. If you could keep a little chart, because the people who've watched those videos got to know these people. If you could keep a little chart, and after the primary is over, just let us know whether they won or they lost.
Mm-hmm.
Just give us a heads up, because if you've watched the videos, you become a little bit invested in these people, and you want to, you're rooting for them, or who knows, maybe you're not rooting for them, but at any rate, you're somewhat invested in that. So maybe keep a chart, because the different days. Each state is different as to when their primary date is. Yep. The different days, and keep a chart that says, candidate Caitlin won, Caitlin didn't make it, something like that.
Yeah, you can definitely.
Or maybe if there's somebody in our community that could help him with that, because I mean it's a great idea, but I'm just like, wow, that's a whole that's a whole nother thing trying to put on your plate. And we want to try to help you. But Scott, what a fantastic idea. But if there's anybody that's in our community that has skills like that, that can put that together to help him out, that would be very helpful. And Scott, what an amazing idea.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely something we can do. So yeah, keep an eye out. I'll probably try and get, because I got another interview in an hour. I'm going to see if I can get today's video that was supposed to come out this morning out in the next, 20 or 30 minutes. So keep an eye out. It'll be someone who's running in Chicago, a Chicago person. That'll be today's video. But yeah, I've interviewed some cool people. Interviewed just yesterday someone running for Senate. So there's some really cool people out there. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Everyone in the chat, thank you for the likes, the shares, the gifts, and over in the tube, the subs. Thank you, Grace, if you're still there. I appreciate you so much. Appreciate all of the support, whether you're here, no matter which platform you're on. Again, please watch the videos over on the tube. Again, these people are running for office. Some of the things that these guys are dealing with the most is lack of visibility. So watching the videos, sharing the videos, interacting with the videos, those will help push those videos out more than you possibly know. So any help with that is greatly appreciated. I know they will appreciate it. And it honestly, like I've said this before, it really gives you a little bit of hope watching these people running for office, because they really want to do things differently than what has been done before. So if you want to feel a little bit better about the future, watch some of these videos. I promise you will feel a little bit better. You will feel a little less alone, that there are people they're actually good people that are trying to make changes in the world. So anyways,
Hey, just in case you didn't see, you do have 2 people that volunteered to help you put that together. Kiva and Grace on the other side.
awesome.
Sorry to interrupt you. Have a good day.
Appreciate it. All right. You guys are amazing just the way you are, and I love you all very much. Stay safe, stay healthy. Remember to sing, laugh, dance, smile. Do something that makes you happy. Bye, guys. Goodbye, YouTube. Yeah, Kiva, Grace, I'll message you about something that we possibly can do, because we technically have a Google Sheet already set up for people that we have contacted. So that we might be able to like blend them together and keep track of it that way. So we'll talk and we can figure it out. So bye, guys. Love you.